If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I generally talk about Disney and Pixar movies. I do occasionally break out from this and talk about others, so it's rare that I actually do this. But this film I've actually wanted to talk about since making my channel, because that film is Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Now, I have seen this film. Once. I remember it, but I don't remember it. And that's a shame because as much as this film isn't perfect, and it definitely isn't one of the best DreamWorks animation films they have made, I can appreciate it, and I can say, I miss films like Sinbad. Hi there, it's me, the Average Critic, and let's talk about Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, a film we just don't get anymore. Sinbad was one of the last films by DreamWorks to use 2D drawn animation before switching to 3D, and I can see why they made this switch, as this film nearly bankrupted the entire company. I must admit, I can see why, as I don't know a lot of people who really know this film. Even when watching this film years ago, even at the time, I remember it being pretty forgettable. And while this film is nothing incredibly special, it's got a lot going for it, and what this film represents in animation, there is something to appreciate about this film. Now, Sinbad is a pretty generic film. Swashbuckling, smooth-talking protagonist, evil goddess who is brilliant for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, I'm touching myself tonight.
A big adventure movie that takes kids and families on a fun ride. And that's what I found myself doing when watching this film. Sinbad as a character is fun, quippy, and generally made me laugh. His interactions with his crew as well as other characters make for some wonderful moments of dialogue between characters. The animation is fluid and the action sequences are done really well. I generally found myself having a lot of fun with them. The film does do a mix of 2D with a few CG background moments of large creatures being CGI, and while I don't think the CGI is as good as, say, Treasure Planet, I like it in this movie and it looks good for the most part. So what is this movie? Well, it's an adventure movie. I don't mean it's an action movie, of course there is action, but compared to modern MCU films and James Bond, where every action sequence matters in order to move the story along to tell a coherent story, no, this is an adventure movie, where it's all about grand set pieces, large action sequences, and grand long tales of knights, pirates, or spacemen. Now, as much as we get brilliant grand adventure films that become hugely popular, films like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Pirates of the Caribbean, for the most part, adventure films don't do much else for its film other than being about the adventure itself. And this film is very much an adventure movie. Every piece of animation is grand for the sake of being grand. Just look at the way the characters fight in this scene. Everything is badass, and it doesn't make sense, and it almost doesn't need to. Even the plot of the movie of retrieving the Book of Peace, which does something, no one really knows what this thing does, but it doesn't matter. Cool object, cool hero, sword fights, quippy one-liners.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Now, of course, we have plenty of films like this. They are commonly called popcorn movies, in which this is defined as a film that is perceived as entertaining, but lacking in depth and artistic merit. And they still show up today. However, in animation, they aren't really a thing, and that's kind of a shame. There are a few that pop up in modern cinema. They're usually brought down by woke culture and weak characters like Strange World, or even misunderstood by audiences as to what they are going for, like Lightyear. But Sinbad is easily having fun with itself. Look no further than its cast. Brad Pitt, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. They are all selling every inch of dialogue to make the pace of the movie flow incredibly well. Dialogue between characters is fast, and for an animated movie, and to be fair, it's something that DreamWorks have always done really well in their films. The script and the dialogue tells us a lot about our characters without the need for any bad exposition. When Sinbad and Proteus are reunited at the start of the film, their dialogue tells us everything we need to know without them screaming to the camera, "Hey, we know each other!" Compared to other animated films which contain heavy themes for kids and adults to ponder on, Sinbad throws most of it away in favour of action and fun. While there is a slight theme of honour and being truthful to yourself, it isn't at the forefront of the movie. And while audiences generally yearn for animated films to have strong themes and concepts, Sinbad just says to hell with it and makes way for cool things and awesome characters. This film is the Michael Bay of the animated film department, substituting themes and characters for explosions and sex appeal. Which of course, every character despite being animated is drop dead gorgeous. Online, this film is seen as one of the sexiest animated films to ever come out, and in its defense, its use of sexual energy is something that is used throughout the whole movie, and is something actually very interesting. If you want to know more about this, I actually recommend watching Savage Book's video on this very topic. If I'm honest with myself, this film is average at best. The characters are well enough written, but nothing too in-depth. The action sequences feel fun, but nothing too crazy. The music is incredible, but perhaps it's too good for a film that is just trying to have fun. But in animation, we have this idea that it always needs to have some strong emotional scenes that make us cry. Disney and even Pixar set the bar so high that every film is compared to the last, something even myself is guilty of doing from time to time. But why can't animation and cartoons just have kick-ass action sequences to a kick-ass score where your main character says funny stuff and saves the day? There has been a small amount of fun animated movies where characters go on an adventure and the adventure is enough. Don't get me wrong, I still prefer my animated movies to have heart, but I miss the days where characters would just go on a quest, defeat a great evil, and the credits would roll over a cheesy happy ending as they ride off into the sunset, seemingly going off on another adventure. While films like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Lord of the Rings do have heart, they came from simple adventure ideas of going on a fun adventure thrill ride. So when a film, say like Lightyear, comes out and is compared to the films that it has come from just because it's not as emotional as other films, it doesn't mean it didn't succeed in doing what it was trying to do. And while yes, Sinbad and the Seven Seas isn't as funny as say Road to El Dorado, or even as emotional as How to Train Your Dragon, but it has its own adventure and doesn't care about it because it's got a badass character with a badass cast and awesome action sequences. So Sinbad might be forgetful, but it stands out, and it is unfortunately a side of animated films we don't get to see too often, which I think is a big shame, because ultimately, while we shame a film for trying to be different, it's also something every film is trying to be. So after all that, it gets my professional rating of 6 out of 10. But it's gonna get my personal rating of 7 out of 10. I probably won't watch this film again, but I do just want to say to DreamWorks, with regards to Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, thanks for trying, and thanks for being different. So thank you for joining me in this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more great videos on all things animation. Let me know in the comment section what are some of your thoughts on this film. I know there are some die-hard fans about this film, so I'm really curious to see what you guys have to know if you have even seen this film at all. This film really does have a small cult following over the years, so I'd really love to know. But thank you so much for watching me, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.